going to have a go at this lovely pen and wash scene. It's a nice, simple, fun one that you could do with kids as well. I'm going to walk you through the drawing of this one this time, so please stay tuned because it's important to understand the little bits of perspective and how I've simplified the picture. So let's go. Okay, I'm going to do some pen and wash today. This is a scene that I've got from Southwold in Suffolk, from the pier. It's quite complex. There's a lot of beach huts. We're just going to take a small section of it. Just have a go loosely with pen and wash. It's quite good to have a loose method, especially if you're painting outside. And I'm also going to use pans today. I don't often use pans, but I thought I'd give you an insight into them. I'm very loosely going to pop 2 lines in. That line and that line, that's just to give me a sense of perspective. So that's a line of the pier. You don't need to use a ruler. I'm going to very loosely just sketch a few little bits in. I like to do wash first and then the pen after. I don't like to do too much pen. So you're going to do an apex. What you'll find is it's bigger one side than the side that's further away. So that's the important thing, and I'm going to carry on doing these apexes. Perspective tends to be a little bit scary when you start, but actually doing something simple like this, which looks overly complicated but is actually quite simple, will help. So I'm going to choose 5 beach huts. You can choose whichever colours you want. I'll pop the photo up and also my drawing, but I wanted to do the drawing for you so you can see where I'm going with this. So I'm keeping them quite central. I'm going to make the rest of it up. So these are going to flow back. So you've got flowing back. Because we're looking up, it's going to slant slightly downwards. And then this one is going to have back to it. Then they've all got a little window in the centre. If you follow that central line, it helps to get that in. You just want to make them smaller as they go further away. There we go. In the background we've got some very loose trees and buildings, and I'm actually going to make it a tree line here, so we're going to keep it nice and simple. So I'm going to come on with some water. All the way down to the pier, but around the beach huts. Remember, we're keeping it nice and loose. So this is around number 10. I'll tell you these colours as I go. I'm going to be popping them on to know what the colour is. So this is cerulean blue. So I'm dabbing my brush into the water, then dabbing it onto the palette. There's been a few times I've been asked how you work with pans because it's a bit more difficult. If you're doing loose, it's not too bad. If you're doing big scale wet in wet, it's a bit more tricky because you've got to work the brush to get the paint moving. So I'm just dabbing in, creating a blue sky. I think I've got some ultramarine here as well. I'll have a little bit of that towards the top. And then this one is burnt umber. I'm going to pop a bit in the palette and mix a bit of the ultramarine with it. So I've got a bit of a distant grey. And this is what I'm going to pop into the background. So dab it on, try and get round the beach huts. In fact, I'm going to swap down to a number 6. Dab into both of these again. Just make sure I get a nice grey. Just come back in, because I need this to be a bit neater. Come round tops of those beach huts. Nice and loose. Just dab, dab, dab. We're going to create it and make it look like it's some very distant trees. You could have some buildings in here if you wanted. I'm using my usual Saunders Waterford paper because it gives me plenty of time. Dab into those again. I'm going to pick up my wash brush again. I'm going to come into this sea with a little bit of water. You can come over the rock, it doesn't matter. Pick up my round number 10 again. Stick with the same colours that you've used in the sky. So I've got cerulean blue coming in first of all, sweeping side to side. Dab into the ultramarine, sweeping side to side. Dabbing into the burnt umber and ultramarine to make the grey, sweeping side to side. So I'm going to leave an odd white patch, a bit that's lighter. So I just want lots of movement in the water. Okay, so I'm going to now start to dip into some of these colours, and we're going to pop. This is around number 6. It is working. Give it a little bit of a rub. And this is a cadmium red. Cadmium red pale, if I need to hazard a guess. I'm going to go yellow. This will be a cadmium yellow. Often in these starter kits, the cadmiums. This is often what people have to start, so these are the common ones. Then this will be alizarin crimson. So we're mixing up the colours. So I'm going straight on to dry. Just avoiding the roof line, avoiding the window. Just painting in a base really. Just rinse my brush off every time. I'm going to do a cerulean blue. Chop. Now you can dry these in between. You can leave a very fine line. You can let it bleed in. I quite like the looseness of it bleeding in. So I'm going to use a little bit more of that cadmium yellow and a little bit of the cerulean blue to make a green. So I've got a different colour in here. I'm going to swap back to my number 10, pick up a little bit of the cadmium yellow with some water, and then we're just going to sweep that over the pier. Yes, I'm coming back onto dry again. Then if I dab it into the water, dab into the burnt umber, I'm just going to sweep some of that over as well. So I'm basically mucking up the cadmium yellow because I haven't got a raw sienna. If you had raw sienna, you could just use that. Okay, so I need a nice dark. This is what I'm checking what these are. So that's Viridian. Often if you wet it, that's sap green. You can see the colour. So I'm going to make my dark with the same mix of ultramarine and burnt umber, because these are the ones that I've got. Now, if you use more ultramarine, you will find you can get a black that works pretty well. So I want a tiny bit of a window in here. I could put this in with a pen. Again, I'm trying to do as much as I can with the wash, because then you don't need as much pen. I'm going to come on to these roof lines. Just sweeping it on to dry. I don't mind if it runs a little bit. I don't mind if I leave an odd bit of white either. It all adds to a picture like this. I'm going to wet my brush, just still with that colour on, and just start to bring this in. So this is that rock. I'm just going to get the base of that in. It's still damp, that's fine. Again, I don't mind it spreading a little bit. If I take a dab of that water into that grey now, I want a dark side and a light side, so I can just run this grey through those edges so that I've got that dark shadow. Just going to bring that, extend that way. Okay, so I'm ready now for a bit of pen. I'm just going to dry this off. That's nicely dry now. Now the whole point of doing that wash first and that very loose drawing is you're now going to go in with the pen, and you'll need a lot less pen than you would have if you'd done the pen first. So it's my favourite tip. So I have got a Faber-Castell drawing pen. It's a permanent pen and it's in sepia. It's a fine, and I'm going to start to come in. So I'm not going to use any water soluble ink today, but I can use that. I have used that previously. So what I'm going to start to do first of all, and this is important, not outline, I'm going to pick out darks. So the sides that are dark I can shade, I can cross etch, I can scribble on. So I'm going to start with the beach huts because the beach huts are my focal point. I'm going to pick out those dark areas. So under the apex, around that side of the window, and have a little bit at the bottom. And then it's this side of this beach hut, the apex again, around this side of the window, a little bit at the bottom. So I'm just coming along. Apex, scribble, scribble. You can be nice and expressive with your marks. And these are really popping out now. I'm going to look at this water line now. I'm scribbling into the pier section really. But I can emphasise the splashing of the waves by scribbling onto the pier section. So I'm just going to create a little bit of texture. Directional strokes, give it a bit of energy. Try not to overthink it. Now, because I want to keep the tree line and the whatever the town line distant, I'm just going to create a bit of dark just at the bottom with scribble. And then that just works nicely. So I'm going to come in now and start to create some movement of waves. It's a bit more of a squiggle now. A bit more precise, but still not precise. The movement of these waves. There's something lovely and freeing about doing pen and wash. I'm following the direction of that wave there. Start to work into this rock face as well. This is the bit where I might add a bit more paint because I think it will benefit me to do that, just to bring that forward. So I can add some craggy bits. Might actually add a couple of telegraph poles. There is a lot of telegraph poles or lamp posts here. I'm placing them where I would like them, just because it gives a nice sense of perspective. There we go. That's my pen finished. I'm just going to nip into this dark grey again, this black. Take a bit more onto the rocks. So we're going to really bold these up so it comes forward. Again, I'm working on to dry, number 6. I want you to leave some of the other areas without paint on. This is just building up a second layer. So I've kept that little bit of light there. And because your pen's permanent, it's not going to move at all. You can use a biro if you haven't got a drawing pen. A biro works brilliantly. And there we go. I think that one's finished. If you've enjoyed this one, I'll pop you another video link up here and a playlist to some landscapes just up here. See you next time.